kind of sit on and really talk about in depth. The first story comes from DePaul University in Chicago, and really it's another case, for me at least, the way I see it, of silencing free speech. Um, big guy, real popular. Milo Yiannopoulos was at DePaul University, and he was going to speak there. He was paid to speak there from their Republican committee. 500 some odd students showed up. I'm going to try and break it down as simple as possible. If you really want, like, the full in-depth story, explanation for everything, please go and look at Sargon of Akkad. He has a really great, just in-depth look at the people who caused the protest and who these people are. He did really great research on that, so I really appreciate that. I looked at that video and it was just he really did his homework on that. So, I mean, I'm going to just try and break it down as simple as I can. Um, I watched the whole video as well, the original DePaul University, of him speaking there. And what happened was he was speaking, kind of doing like his opening statement. They maybe talked to him for 15, 20 minutes around that time. And someone didn't like what he had to say. Guy comes up, being a part of Black Lives Matter. Guy comes up, ringing his, not ringing, blowing his whistle. He's blowing this whistle. He comes up there, sits right up on stage, and then this other girl comes, takes the interviewee's mic, and starts a protest. Very, very violent acting. And I've said this before, you can't have credibility as a group if you're going to go to the means of violence. I don't think that violence can really be the answer to a lot of the problems that we have. So, I just dropped my phone. But back to story. Sorry. I don't know. When you start resorting to violence, it's kind of like the parable of, you're trying to take the speck out of someone's eye. You got to take the log out of your own eye. I mean, Black Lives Matter was founded on this narrative of police brutality being wild and being rampant, but now they have people rioting, protesting, silencing speech just because they don't like it. See, the thing about free speech is America was pretty much founded on free speech, on freedom. That's what we were founded upon. And to take that away from people, it just is a huge rabbit hole. Just because you don't like what someone says doesn't exactly mean that you should stop them from saying it, unless it's a threat, unless it's a call to action. That is different. Now, the Black Lives Matter protester argued because Milo Yiannopoulos had the views he had, and he's very brash with it, which I'm brash as well. I don't mind that. I think that people need to be more brutally honest and really have a strong opinion, because no one wants to really debate anymore. They have weak arguments, and I don't know. It doesn't get you thinking. So he was saying that because of Milo Yiannopoulos' views and what he was saying, that pretty much he was causing things like shootings in black communities, etc. And that's ridiculous. You can't hold someone's words to someone who they don't even know. You can't just... There's no specific call to action. If there's a specific call to action, that's different. But there wasn't. Now, things got worse as they were protesting. The lady became very aggressive, looking like she actually hit Milo Yiannopoulos in the face. I'm not sure. You can look at the video yourself if you just YouTube Milo Yiannopoulos DePaul University. You can as I said before, look at Sargon of Akkad's video. Very good, very informative, very unbiased. But it looks like she either gets close with the mic to hitting him or hits him. But Milo Yiannopoulos, being just such a great, he is really witty. He's very clever. And to deter the protest, he actually went off stage instead and just started talking to people, taking pictures with them, really doing things that speakers wouldn't normally do, which is give them money's worth, because you have to pay money for people to come and people to speak. You have to rate, you have to fundraise, you have to do a lot of things. And another thing, speaking of money, is, now I'm not for sure on this, but I know that they paid money for security. Now, I know they paid at least $400. I don't know, however, if DePaul's Republican committee paid $400 and Milo Yiannopoulos paid $400, or if one of them paid $400. Either way, they definitely did not get their money's worth. They called the police, they called the security. Security comes, security's ready to take them out. And the administration at DePaul University says, "Oh no, don't do anything. Just wait. We don't want to." Pretty much, they didn't want to step on any toes. They were intimidated by them, and I mean, it's so ridiculous. You're going to class, you're going to school there, you're going to university, and the authority can't rule over you. When do you draw the line of letting them do what they want and when not? Because it was very violent. I mean, it was very anger-filled and intimidation techniques. And I think that, I mean, their points, like even in DePaul University, they say if you're, when you protest, that you can't be intimidating, you can't be violent, and they did that. I mean, the guy actually, the male protester, he actually threatened to hit Milo Yiannopoulos at one point. And I mean, that right there should be subject to punishment. But I mean, it just gets worse and worse. Like, I mean, this right here, this article that I found in the Washington Times, the president of DePaul University likens campus race activists that shut down a conservative event to troops who stormed the beaches of Normandy in World War II. Let's see here. It is Dennis Holtschneider said the students were wrong, yet also very much like Allied forces who died in France. I think that's a big jump there, Dennis. So, yesterday's speaker, this is a quote, yesterday's speaker was invited to speak at DePaul University, and those who interrupted the speech were wrong to do so. I was ashamed for DePaul University when I saw a student rip the microphone from the hands of the conference moderator and wave it in the face of our speaker. I expected to be moved by the generosity of those who gave their lives on the beaches. I did not expect, however, to be shocked when I realized that most of the soldiers were the same ages as our students today. The rows on rows of white crosses in an American cemetery speak to the selflessness of the human spirit at early adulthood to lay down their lives for a better world. I realize that many of yesterday's protesters hold similarly noble goals for a more inclusive world for those traditionally held aside by our society. This guy, I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Milo Yiannopoulos' stance or not. That doesn't matter whatsoever. That should not have to come into the opinion of whether someone has the right to free speech or not. This is the problem. If you're silencing one group and you keep silencing people over and over and over again, soon it's going to be okay. And soon your freedom of speech is going to be gone. And when your freedom of speech is going to be gone, as you're going, oh, we got to protest this and we have to say that they can't say this and yada, 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 eventually you aren't going to be able to say things that you want to say. And it's going to come full circle and no one is going to have free speech. It's a all or nothing case. So whether you agree or not, it shouldn't matter if you agree with him or not. It doesn't matter. It's, do you agree with free speech or not? So continuing, he says, generally, I do not respond to speakers of Mr. Yiannopoulos' ilk, as I believe that they are more entertainers and self-serving provocateurs than the public intellectuals they purport to be, the university president wrote. Their shtick is to shock and incite a strong emotional response they can then use to discredit the moral high ground claimed by their opponents. This is unworthy of university discourse, but not unfamiliar across American higher education. There will always be speakers who exploit the differences within our human community, to their own benefit, blissfully unconcerned with the damage they leave behind. This is ridiculous because he specifically goes to the defense of the people who caused the protest, the people who caused the interruption, and the people who need to be punished. He's actually going to the defense when you read that. And I mean, this has really come to bite on the butt of DePaul University because, I mean, you go to DePaul University on Facebook right here. Sorry if you hear clicks of the mouse, by the way. The mic is pretty close to my mouse. So anyways, you go to DePaul University on Facebook, and they are rated now 1.1 stars because of how many people have heard about this. 12,000 reviews. And it is simply insane. They posted something, May 26th, 2 days ago. And it says, to our students, parents, alumni, and all other members of the DePaul community, we are reviewing all your posts, comments, and messages and sharing those with the university administration regularly. Believe us when we say that your concerns are being heard. It errs on the side of really saying, we hear your messages, but we really don't care. And I think a lot of people are noticing that. And see, this is the thing. I think one thing, now please excuse the language that I use. When I use it, I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos' tour is called the Dangerous Faggot Tour. And if you don't know, he's a homosexual, and that's what he named it. He's very brash and very in your face. One thing that this tour has really shown is how dumbed down universities are these days. You have people saying that you need safe spaces. When has the world ever been safe? You can't expect everyone to follow your narrative of saying, oh, well, I don't know if he's going to be offended by this. People get offended by everything now. It's ridiculous. You want people to just live in your bubble and respect it. That's not how life works. Sorry. It's really just, I don't know. It's insane. It's really insane, and it treads on free speech. It really gets a bit uncomfortably close to free speech, at least in my opinion. And more stuff when it comes to free speech and free creation and the YouTube spectrum of news. H3H3 Productions, a YouTuber that I like pretty well, is being sued by a guy that he made a reaction video on. Now, this is a little bit of old news. He was getting sued a while ago. He announced it, but the thing is, it kind of sinked in more, like it came to a head. It's getting ready to go to court, but he says court can take, I believe, up to 2 years. And just to fight this case, he needs something around $100,000. So another huge YouTuber, Philip DeFranco, made a GoFundMe campaign type deal. Maybe GoFundMe, I don't know what website, I forget. And he put $5,000, I believe, into the fund to get it started, and many YouTubers, even ones that don't like H3H3 to have beef with him in the past, specifically Leafy is here, have been putting money out. I mean, even people were putting 5,000, 5,000, even people just sharing everywhere, donating small amounts, big amounts. Leafy donated 1,000. Markiplier, I believe, donated 5,000. The Fine Bros donated 10,000. So it was a really good time for the YouTube community. And if you want to know about fair use and all of this, please look into it. It's something that we really need to get straight. Because the thing about fair use is kind of a subjective law. Like, one person can interpret it one way and one person can interpret it another way. Fair use, pretty much, in the most layman terms I can put it, is to use someone's material, it has to be transformative. It's so pretty much you don't steal money from someone by, for instance, reposting the exact same video and maybe mirroring the whole video and saying this is different, but you get money off of it. And I mean, the way that you go about it, like for instance, H3H3 makes reaction videos, so he reacts to it, talks about it. Not a fake reaction video where you see the whole entire video and you're just on a box in the corner of the screen watching and you kind of laugh every once in a while. Like a real reaction. He does comedy sketches with it to an extent, kind of saying things that, jokes are goofy and whatever. And pretty much Bold Guy thought that this was infringing on his revenue. And Bold Guy, what's funny is Bold Guy's lawyer said, well, if you give him, I believe, like some small number, like $3,000 or something, and you promote his YouTube, then they won't sue. Or if you promote his YouTube for this amount of time, they won't sue. But the funny thing is, when he made that video, when H3 made that video, he even shows that he actually promoted that video while he was doing the reaction to the video. It's pretty ridiculous, but that isn't good enough for Bold Guy. And the backlash has really come back on this guy, and he really did transform the video. He showed, I think he only showed 3 minutes of the actual video, and the video is around 14 or something like that long. He didn't show barely any of the video, and you can look at H3H3's video on it. He explains it much better than I. And it's just, you gotta find a way to really talk about this, because I mean, in court, if you don't know about fair use, like especially in the YouTube community, the YouTube spectrum, it's really hard to tell people who've never heard about it. It's hard to really explain it to somebody because the line can be blurred so much, and it can get confusing fast. But one of the simplest ways to make it transformative is by adding more of your material, a majority amount, an overwhelming majority amount of your video in the video that you are critiquing, making satire out of, whatever you're doing. It's like for instance, fair use, if you show a video clip for a news program or something like that, that falls under fair use because they're showing that to make the point. They aren't showing the whole entire thing, they're just showing that point right there. And that's pretty much what H3 did. Now, what happened is, with all these people that have donated, though, to this fair use campaign, he has gotten over $100,000. It is insane, and it is great to see a community kind of come together and help people. It's the YouTube fair use thing is something that is a huge obstacle, and it's pretty scary because it can ruin someone's YouTube career. It can ruin a lot for them. So hopefully they can get that settled. Hopefully they will be okay, and they can just somehow find a way to work it out, because it's getting out of hand at this point. It really is, but hope for them, and as they always say, Papa bless. So, in other news, one thing that I was gonna watch this video, and I didn't for a while, and I just got done watching it not too long ago, was Edward Snowden being interviewed on Vice, and it's another freedom thing. I noticed when I was getting these stories and getting my information and jotting them down, I noticed that this whole entire episode is going to be freedoms, different freedoms, and how people are trying to take them away, it seems, at least in my view. I'd love to hear yours and what you think about this stuff. But it's Edward Snowden talking to Vice. If you have Vice and HBO, you are very lucky because this interview looks amazing. So, Edward Snowden was talking about how the interviewee, the guy who was interviewing Snowden, was talking about how the government's calling for regulation on encryption. And if you don't know what encryption is, pretty much it's privacy on your computer. It's so the government can't look at what they want on your computer or on your phone. It's the privacy tool, pretty much. And the government has been calling for regulation on it so they can look into it for certain cases. And this was after the San Bernardino shooting and the Paris attack. Now, the guy says, which I'm not too sure, I haven't looked deeply into this aspect of it. He says that both of those crimes did not have anything to do with encryption, but they're pushing it in. So, Edward, when asked why they call for this since there is no evidence of encryption being used, he answered, there was an email from the top lawyer for the intelligence community, a man named Robert Litt. He's the representative of James Clapper, the director of Central Intelligence Agency. He said that it was August of this year, or last year, I believe, August of last year, obviously. He wrote that legislatively they couldn't pass the restrictions on encryption that they wanted to because the public wouldn't abide by it. And, quote, it was simply too politically toxic. It would infringe on too many people's rights and liberties. Now, I've followed Edward Snowden ever since he whistleblowed all the documents with the NSA. I've followed this story closely because it really shows what the government can get away with. And it comes to the point of where we have to ask ourselves, are we going to let this happen, or are we going to do something about it? And whether you agree that the way Edward Snowden did this was right or not, what you can't deny is he really exposed the NSA. And, John Oliver has talked about this, surveillance, all that. And he did a terrible job. I'm gonna just put it out there. John Oliver went to a comedy routine to talk about surveillance, and it was ridiculous. You learned nothing from the article. Please, if you have Vice on HBO or you follow Vice, please check them out because they look like they've done a really good job with this interview. I'm very excited to watch it. I need to check if my TV has HBO now. But anyways, so he said if we could just get a big terrorist attack, things might change. The reporter from Vice asking, and how do we know about that email? Snowden responded, saying, well, we don't know whether they hacked his email. It seems much more likely that someone actually who works in the intelligence community who saw what he was doing was hoping for a serious terrorist attack. So they told the newspapers, and the newspapers ran it. It's crazy following the story because the thing is, when it comes to things like free speech and encryption is one of the most important parts of our liberty. Now, the reason that is because it's our privacy. The world is going more and more in the direction of pretty much all internet. Everything's going to be on the internet. We have our phones on us all the time. It's insane. People spend so much time on their computer, on their phone, on their laptop, on their tablet. Something's on them electronically always. And it's crazy. There's actually a part in the Vice interview that I saw, and Snowden, right in front of the camera, is taking apart this phone, taking the camera out, and showing how he can just hack into a phone. And he just says, he's like, at this one part, he just says, see, you don't own this phone anymore. I own this phone. I can turn on your camera, front and back, and I can turn on the microphone. Now, I've always been a skeptic. I've heard that rumor before, that people can do that. It's not that I didn't believe that it would happen, but more that I thought, nah, no one's going to. Now, I thought that it could be possible, but it'd be way too complicated. But he made it look so easy, and we are vulnerable. We're very vulnerable. It's the same thing with credit cards and checks and other things. I mean, someone takes your credit card to pay for something, or you're at a bank and an accountant hears your credit card number, they can just write it down, take a picture of it, steal your credit card, and they can spend a lot of money, and you will have to pay for it. I mean, there's some protective measures, but it's a scary world that we live in with people attacking these liberties that we have. And to keep going, Robert Litt was asked to justify rather than defending his point. He said, it's very corrosive to be revealing the internal correspondence of the executive branch. They need to have a measure of privacy. At the same time, Snowden said, they're denying the right to privacy to the masses, not only 330 million American citizens, but to everyone in the world. This is just insane. It's insane that we've come to this point where the government is getting so big, and, I think that we need to be more aware of internet safety, because you're on it all the time. It's the same thing as Facebook. Facebook becomes ridiculous. We were just talking about this several months ago now, maybe almost a year, of the Facebook Messenger controversy and all the things that they want from you. They want access to your location. They want access to your camera. They want access to everything, to your microphone. And, the thing is, there are technically justified reasons. Like, for instance, they say, oh, well, we need access to your microphone, so if you want to voice chat into the microphone and, send it out that way, if you don't have hands to text or whatever for Messenger, you can do it that way. I need your camera if you want to post a picture to it. The thing is, they still have access. You're giving them that right to say, yeah, you can use it. You can use it how you want. And I think that's just crazy. I mean, I still don't use Messenger to this day on Facebook. I've always been paranoid of pretty much anything that needs my location. I mean, GPS, for instance. GPS wants to know your location all the time, and I get very paranoid about that. Facebook has their check-in. I mean, how do you think that people are going to be able to track you? It's so easy to do it. You're posting it publicly. You're pretty much posting this stuff publicly. If you have your location on your phone and you post something onto Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or pretty much anything that is social media, you are showing where you are. You check in and you're literally saying where you're at. It's crazy how they trick you in that way. And you just gotta be careful. Am I saying that the government's always spying on us and there's cameras everywhere? I don't know. I think I would just rather err on the safe side. I think that's one of the reasons I try and keep stuff with my phone and stuff with my computer at a minimum. I mean, Windows 10 was asking so many privacy questions, and a lot of people were mad because of the fact that it asks so much. So whether it does ask a bit too much to you or not, just be watchful. You gotta be watchful about these things, because this is where they're gonna fight the freedoms at next, I believe. I think they're gonna be fighting places like your phone and your computer and encryption, because it's hard for people to understand if they don't put effort in it. And a lot of people are not putting effort into things right now. I mean, that's why you have people, when you want to debate them and stuff like that, they're just going to call you a racist or a misogynist or a sexist or whatever. You could not agree with feminism and you're automatically a misogynist, sexist. I mean, if you are against gay marriage, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe. I mean, if you don't support Black Lives Matter, once again, you're a bigot, you're a racist. That's all they say. There's no real debate on it, and I'd love to hear debates on it. I'd love to hear people actually open up dialogue and talk, because there's no reason to talk if you're just going to have a yelling match with somebody. And I forgot to add this, by the way, on the Yiannopoulos subject, if I can go back there real quick. He actually made a counter protest going to the president's office. It was pretty awesome, actually. 500 students, and it's been time for people to fight back this hypocrisy, and not in a violent way either. A peaceful protest. If people are going to be interrupting you, you just got to stand up for these rights, because we all have the right. We all have the right to say what we want to say. We have that right. You can't be silenced. We all have the right to privacy on our computers, on our phones, to not be tracked. This is a right. That's what innocent until proven guilty means. They want to treat people, though, now like guilty until proven innocent. And it's the same with fair use. As long as you are making something transformative, you have the right to make comedy, to make satire. That's the beauty of freedom. We get all of these things because of freedom. Whether our freedom's being taken away or not, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it isn't. But you never know in this day and age. And I think that's where I'm going to leave off of tonight. It is very late. I recorded this one pretty late, but I really want to practice to make this Podshow radio on YouTube the best I can make it. And hopefully it was good. Now, if you like it, make sure that you push that like button. And if you loved it, make sure you push that subscribe button. And if you hated it, let me know in the comments. And if you loved it, let me know in the comments. I mean, do whatever, Do whatever you think you should be doing.